Welcome back to AGR, and today we're talking about the only sport that matters. Let's review NASCAR Heat 4, talk about what they're doing a little bit for NASCAR Heat 5, and tell you what they need to do to make this franchise even better for the future.
You've been doing a really great job here lately. It's been a lot of fun racing with you.
NASCAR Heat 4 is exactly what it sounds like. It is a racing simulation game that lets you jump into any of the top 3 NASCAR divisions: the Monster Energy Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, the Gander Outdoor Truck Series, and even a 4th made-up Dirt Series. It was developed by Monster Games and published by 704 Games. That's important for NASCAR Heat 4, but future installments are actually being developed by 704 Games and have moved on to a different publisher. Everything that you would expect to be here is here. You have your quick race, you have season mode, you have career mode, and you even have a challenge mode that lets you relive some moments from the past season and try to get some unlockables that we will get into. Now let's talk about the gameplay, because when it comes to sports games, any sports game, gameplay is 80 to 90% of what the game is even about. First up, you have the look. The graphics are a huge step up from NASCAR Heat 3. With the way games look today, you really need a good-looking racing game for it to even appeal to anybody. With games like Project Cars and Forza and F1 looking as good as they do, to compete in the racing genre, you really need to look good, and they've taken a huge step forward this year. The physics also have taken a step forward, but they're not quite where they should be, in my opinion. Getting loose and stuff like that just doesn't feel right, and when you bump into other cars and stuff, it feels a little too arcadey. As soon as you start bumping and banging, it really takes you out of the immersion for me. And speaking of bumping and banging, the damage model is just unacceptable. To me, it is not okay in 2020 to not really have any damage on the car at all, or just minor scrapes and bangs. You can literally drive 200 mile an hour into a wall and it just scrapes up the paint sometimes. I know the development team was really small for this game. They don't have the backing and the resources of other games, but still, that is something they need to do going forward. And from the looks of NASCAR Heat 5, they've not changed any of that. Now to the next on-track thing, and that's the presentation. In real life, from the moment you turn on the TV to watch NASCAR, you're getting commentating, you're getting storylines, you're getting all this stuff. And that needs to be present before, during, and after a race. And it's not on this game. There are very brief stories before a race, but all it ever is, hey, this guy had to move to the back of the field, or this guy's running fast. There's no commentary, and when you get into the actual race, there's nothing. There's just the sound of the car and your spotter and crew chief. Now, even back as far as the PlayStation 1 NASCAR games, they had commentary. Most of it was generic lines that they kept repeating, but even that is better than what we got here. If they could add presentation to this game, whether it be the Fox team, the NBC team, or even just a radio channel, I think that would up this game tremendously. It's something they definitely need to do going forward. Let's get into the gameplay modes. Quick play is obviously just that. It's a quick play. You can pick what series you want to be, your favorite driver, what track you want to race at, and you can hop right in. Now, the next mode, season mode, pretty much the same, except for you're simulating a season. There's nothing special to it. You pick which series you want to be in. You can do whatever you want to do there. Career mode's where it gets a little bit more interesting. You can pick where you want to start. You pick whether or not you want to join a team, or if you want to own your own team. Now, there's 2 different paths there. Joining a team, basically, you don't have to worry about anything. You just race. The better you do, the more opportunities you have to join a better team with faster cars. And that is very important, especially if you put it on higher difficulties, because you can be limited by your cars here. Where the real fun is starting your own team. You have to manage your cars, how many cars you have, what style of car they are. They can be speedway cars or short tracks cars or super speedway cars. And then with that, you have development teams for your engines and for your bodies and for your aerodynamics. On the surface, it sounds really cool, and at first it is. But as you play, you start to slowly figure out that basically all you're doing is grinding money to upgrade these parts, and there's really not that feeling of an actual career. Like, it doesn't make you feel like a NASCAR driver, in my opinion. It's a really good start, and it's definitely the mode that you'll probably sink your most time in, but it's only above average at best. One thing I would like to really see them expand is the ally and rival system. Now, after each race, you'll get either, like, if you were driving clean, someone would be like, hey, good driving out there. You'll get a really bad video of actual NASCAR drivers talking to you and saying, hey, great job, buddy. Or the opposite, if you wreck them and stuff, they'll say, hey, next time, whatever. Those videos are really, really bad. Now, that's to be expected. NASCAR drivers are not trained actors, so they're not really great in front of a camera acting. I would like to see that actually matter. The way it is now, it has no standing going forward or anything. Like if you get into a wreck with a guy on the track, next race he may be like a -20 against you, but it still really doesn't affect anything, and it definitely doesn't affect your career mode. I would like to see, like, if you get into altercations with drivers, maybe that affects what teams you can join and what teams you can't. Or if you've allied with a guy, maybe his team owner is more likely to try to pick you up or give you a good offer. In general, they just need to do a little bit better job of making you feel like an actual driver trying to rise through the ranks in a career. It brings us to the final mode, which is the challenges. Now, challenges are a super good idea, and I actually like the challenges here. The problem with the challenges is the rewards. Now, every challenge rewards you with paint schemes from whatever driver you were racing with in the challenge. And paint schemes are great rewards. I actually absolutely love that idea. But there needs to be more. In NASCAR Heat 4, for example, if you pre-ordered or bought the Gold Edition, they let you drive as Jeff Gordon. And in the upcoming NASCAR Heat 5, they have Tony Stewart as a playable driver. Now, some of the rewards need to be drivers like that. They need to have those old legendary drivers. It gives us something to look forward to, something to fight for. Like, hey, if I beat this challenge, I can unlock Dale Earnhardt. Or, hey, if I beat this challenge, I can unlock Richard Petty or Kel Yarborough or David Pearson. On and on and on. We know that it can be done. It's been done as far back as NASCAR Thunder 2004. You had all those old drivers. Which brings me to another thing, and that's fantasy tracks. I know the community would love to have fantasy tracks back. Saying the rewards aren't good enough may seem a bit picky, but honestly, I think that a lot of this stuff it would make the game tremendously better. Another thing that would make the game better would be a better soundtrack. I think that the soundtrack with this game is ultimately forgettable, and with any game that involves driving, a soundtrack is a major part of the game. Alright, let's talk about some things that I think that they really need to focus on for the future. Now, I know NASCAR Heat 5, they changed development teams. They really didn't have the time needed to make a full-fledged game. NASCAR Heat 5 is basically going to be a big full-priced patch, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. They have listened to the community on some things. They are adding a testing session, which sounds really boring, but it's actually pretty important, especially if you do online multiplayer. And they added stuff like a paint booth, which is much, much needed. Any kind of customization in a racing game is fantastic, and that's long overdue. Now, the things that I think they need to focus on going forward with like NASCAR Heat 6 and beyond, other than the things I already mentioned, like damage models and better physics and all of that, is to me the biggest thing, and that would be multiplayer seasons. I know some of the funnest I've ever had playing a NASCAR game would be like mid-2000 EA Sports titles when you could do 4-player seasons. At that point, obviously, they were all couch co-op. But why can't we do that online? Why can't we get 4 of our friends or even start a league with 32 players and do an actual season and let us be customizable about it? If we want to race 32 times at Watkins Glen, let us do it. If we want to have only 2-player season and 41 other AI drivers turned up to the max and us battling them all season, let us do that. I think a multiplayer season would make this game absolutely amazing. I think one of the biggest problems with the NASCAR Heat series right now is they're focusing so much on the esports side, and they really just don't have the resources to fight games like iRacing. In summary, NASCAR Heat 4 is honestly a really fun bare-bones racing game. If you're a NASCAR fan, this is pretty much a must-buy because this is the only NASCAR game. It's a huge step up from what we've had the last couple of years, and I think they're going to get there. As the game stands right now, it's a little bit above average, and I give it a 7.2. But if you've played NASCAR Heat 4, why don't you tell me what you think in the comments down below? Do you think it needs a lot of work? Do you think that it's a great game? Do you think they're going in the right direction? What are some things that you would love to see implemented into NASCAR games? If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified. I'll leave links down below to all of our social media, and if you will excuse me, I still have my steering wheel set up, so I'm going to go do a few more races.